That sort of power is fleeting. What I seek is the beginning, so I may finally bring this cycle to an end.
That's the question that got me started thinking about one of the most important theories on my channel. So in today's theory video, we'll be talking about how Baylan Skoll could potentially be aligning himself to save the Jedi, or perhaps even start a new Force order, albeit by the most extreme means available to him, and perhaps some of the most extreme means a Grey Force user has ever employed. And before we deep dive into today's theory, I just want to say thank you for helping me reach 1,000 subscribers. You're all awesome and I love you all. Here's to 1,000 more subs. Enjoy the video. Before we go deep into this theory, let's start by talking about Baylan's history and how it ties to his newfound purpose. So while Baylan trained Shin, we're offered a few glimpses into their dialogue, which is filled with trust, and within that, nuggets of information. During some of these dialogues, we're even offered glimpses into Baylan's past. He openly admits that he was once a Jedi during the height of the Jedi Order, right up until its downfall. And in fact, we come to know that Baylan did play a role in the Clone Wars and even knew Jedi like Anakin Skywalker. Based on his dialogue with his apprentice Shin Hati, it's estimated that Baylan's around 18 to 25 years old at the time of the Order's fall, which could place him at around his 50s at the time that he finds Peridea. And in that gap between the fall of the Order, there's a lot shrouded in mystery. What did Baylan do during the time the Inquisitors hunted the Jedi? Did he give up on the Jedi and settle down with an intimate partner? Who is his apprentice during the Clone Wars if he even had one? Who is his master before that? And while the story of Baylan is full of unknowns, there are many pieces of dialogue that certainly hint at significant sentiments Baylan holds towards the Jedi, the Sith, and the future of everything. Here are some of the quotes that will come into play in today's theory. In the dialogue that I mentioned, which is rife with sentiment, he's asked if he misses the Jedi Order, and in his response he says,
I miss the idea of it, but not the truth, the weakness. There was no future there.
When touching on history in a broad sense, he is quoted as saying,
As you get older, look at history. You realize it's all inevitable. Fall of the Jedi, rise of the Empire. It repeats again and again and again.
When discussing the possibility of killing Ahsoka, he utters,
To kill her would be a shame. There are so few Jedi left.
And finally, when it comes to his feelings about Anakin Skywalker's transformation into Darth Vader, Baylan expresses disgust, which speaks volumes about his feelings towards the Sith.
Your legacy, like your master's, is one of death and destruction.
And these quotes are extremely important as they indicate where Baylan is heading, and what can we draw from them exactly? Well, one thing's clear, Baylan definitely has a soft spot for the Jedi, and upon closer inspection, his anger towards the Jedi isn't Sith-like, but rather aligns with ideals similar to Jedi Knight Qui-Gon Jinn, a dogmatic view of the Jedi, a disdain for their political involvement, and how the Order strayed away from their core values during the Clone Wars. Ultimately, when looking at his views on the Jedi, he gives a positive impression which hints at some sort of longing, perhaps one that sees him revisiting or reviving New Order. And there's further hints of this sentiment in this, as Baylan doesn't really want to kill Ahsoka, which should ultimately tell you what you need to know about Baylan being the big bad evil figure in Star Wars. As for his views on history, he projects the idea that history is cyclical, and he says it with a sort of venom and disdain. This ultimately tells us that he is tired of the insanity of history, and is perhaps hinting at a huge upcoming effort to break that cycle, maybe even the cycle of the Sith and the Jedi. And not to get off track, but this sort of reminds me of Kylo Ren, in particular pieces of Kylo's dialogue throughout the sequel trilogy. It makes you wonder if there's a connection there, or if some sort of connection down the line could happen. But that's a video for another time. Onward with our theory. So what does this limited knowledge about Baylan, these quotes, and these inferences we're making mean regarding Baylan's goals and overall arc? Well, just as he's cryptic with his information, there's a profound mission in play, as we see in his dealings with the Night Sisters and Thrawn. At times, it seems like Baylan helps others merely to advance his own agenda. He aids Morgan in finding Thrawn, inching closer to his objective, even befriending Empire affiliates like Thrawn to roam Peridea, perhaps conflict-free. But the question remains, what is Baylan's ultimate goal in all of this? If his short-term goal is to bring him to Peridea, what is the long-term goal in that case? The quote we opened today's video with certainly suggests that he seeks something more than just finding Peridea. Something greater than conventional power of Sith and Jedi, the beginning. Now it's important that we harken back to the Mortis arc, where it was shown to us that time operates differently. If you're watching this, then you probably know, but if you don't, definitely go watch the Mortis 3-episode arc of the Clone Wars during Season 3. In it, Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan stumble upon Mortis and encounter the daughter, son, and father. There, they're tested in several different ways, and when they come out, something very strange happens. The passage of time and the altering of memories have occurred. In fact, the passage of time seems to have been moments, where our heroes were actually there for possibly even days. And like I said, days have passed with no perceivable change. Our heroes' memories are altered. The celestial Mortis Gods, who likely control areas like the world between worlds, or know of them, or visit them regularly, add an enigmatic layer to the theory. So why is this all important to Baylan's mission? Well, Baylan is seeking out the Mortis Gods, or the power of the Mortis Gods, clearly, as during the end of Ahsoka Season 1, he stands atop the Father's fist, pointing out at the same structure that looks like the Mortis Mountains from the Clone Wars. And he's probably seeking them out because either the Father has given him this vision of saving the Order, starting a new Force Order, or something entirely different that we're all missing. So in combining all this, the vision, his goal, his statements, his disdain for the Sith, and his unique alliances, I think Baylan is seeking the Mortis Gods to do one of two things. First, he might aim to enter the world between worlds and travel through portals to accomplish a goal. Alternatively, Baylan may want to plead his case to the Father to transport himself back through time. He could aim to save the Jedi and correct past wrongs. But in my opinion, and for the purposes of this theory, I think Baylan may very well be going to the Father to try to access powers to take him to a time before the fall of the Republic, to place himself in a role where he could course correct the Jedi to how he sees fit, while simultaneously avoiding the birth of Vader and the ascent of Palpatine. Again, it's important to note that Baylan does know who Vader is and his complete arc, as well as Palpatine's, or at least we assume he knows how Palpatine truly is and his ascent. And he has suffered at the hands of the Jedi's mistakes and the Sith's treacherous reign. And what's further intriguing is how far back could Baylan want to travel? Could it be to the inception of the Jedi, the High Republic, or perhaps another galaxy to start a new order? Other questions to think about are, well, what happens to Shin? Does he feel that rewriting history and altering it, perhaps never having Shin birth, would ultimately be his way of saving her from the pain she may be in, or the pain he foresees for her? I mean, who really knows at this point, because we don't even know their real relationship past the master-apprentice dynamic. But getting back on track with the idea that the Father is calling Baylan, what's most chilling is that might not be the Father. That could be another dark entity, calling to prevent Baylan from accessing his true visions. The idea that Baylan is going to the Mortis Gods to go back in time and rewrite history saving the Jedi Order, it's one I think we can truly run with, given the fact the story arc is going towards the Mortis Gods, and given the fact that yes, the Mortis Gods can manipulate time if they want to, and they probably do all the time, as we saw in the Mortis arc in Clone Wars. So in summary, we've delved into Baylan's complex character, his hidden admiration for the Jedi, his disdain for the Sith, and his desire to break the cycle of history, and his desire to break the cycle of Sith and Jedi possibly. And we also talked about the intriguing possibility of him seeking out the power of the Mortis Gods to reshape the Jedi's fate. But many questions still remain. But more importantly, and most importantly, I'd like to know, what do you think of the possibility that Baylan seeks the Mortis Gods' power to correct the Jedi's wrongs, or maybe even start a new order elsewhere, as we mentioned before? Definitely share your thoughts and theories with me in the comment section below. And for more Star Wars theory content, check out my YouTube shorts and long-term videos. Don't forget to like, subscribe, say hello on Twitter, and remember, the Force will be with you always.